It started the way things usually do, with something small. A scent, a silence, a change in how someone looks at you, like you're not real anymore. That morning, I found his coffee mug still warm on the counter. No lipstick, no ring marks, but it smelled like her perfume, light and floral. Nothing I'd ever wear. I stared at it for 3 minutes before I poured it down the drain. I didn't say anything, not that day, not the next. I watched, I listened. I let him keep lying to me with those same soft eyes he used when he asked me to marry him in '06. He still kissed me goodnight, still asked about my day, but he started locking his phone, and that told me everything. We'd been married 18 years, raised 2 girls, survived 3 layoffs, and my breast cancer scare. I thought we were bulletproof. I was wrong. The first time I followed him, I wore sunglasses too big for my face, and a scarf I hadn't touched since my mother's funeral. I felt ridiculous, like I was playing spy, but the second he pulled into her driveway, I stopped feeling anything at all. He didn't even wait. She came out in yoga pants, barefoot, smiling. He kissed her on the mouth, like he kissed me before we had kids and taxes and resentment. I took a picture, just one. I didn't cry. That night, I let him undress me like nothing had changed. He said I was beautiful. I smiled. Then I made love to him like a stranger. Afterward, while he slept, I stared at the ceiling and made a list in my head. A quiet list, not of ways to kill him, no, of ways to make him wish he were dead. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I'm not sorry either. Her name was Rachel. She was 34, divorced, 1 son, freelance marketing. I knew everything about her by day 5. I even knew what kind of toothpaste she used. Tom's of Maine, peppermint. She was exactly the kind of woman he used to say bored him, and now he was inside her every Thursday morning, before our daughter's therapy sessions. I started visiting Rachel's blog. She didn't know I existed, but I commented. I pretended to be a fan. I praised her taste, asked her where she bought her rugs, laughed at her parenting fails. She answered like I was her new best friend. The irony made my chest ache. By week 3, I'd memorized her schedule. I knew when she shopped, when she dropped her kid off at school, when she went to spin class. She had no idea that I once stood behind her at Target, close enough to touch her. I didn't, but I could have. I bought the same candle she had in her foyer, burned it in my kitchen, watched how it changed the way my house smelled. Lighter, younger, like him. I didn't tell my girls. They wouldn't have understood, or maybe they would have, and that would have broken me worse. Our oldest, Lily, had just started college. The youngest, Sophie, was 15, and already halfway gone, living inside her headphones and texting boys with soft eyes. I couldn't give them this version of me, the one who was unraveling stitch by quiet stitch. Then Rachel posted something, a throwaway caption on a photo of a ring. He said someday, she wrote. A joke maybe, but not to me. I couldn't sleep that night. I watched him in the dark, the way his chest rose and fell, the way he murmured her name in his sleep twice. He didn't even know he did it. I almost said it back to him, but I didn't. I got out of bed, went to the kitchen, and opened the bottle of wine I'd been saving since Lily graduated. I drank the whole thing barefoot on the cold tile, and then I knew what I had to do. I started with her son. No, I didn't hurt him. I'm not a monster, but I found out who his father was, real name, not the one on the blog, and I found his employer. Then I made an anonymous complaint about how often Rachel had mystery men visiting while the child was present. Used a burner email, a fake name, quoted some blog entries, uploaded the picture of her and my husband kissing. 2 weeks later, I heard she lost partial custody. Nothing permanent, just enough. She posted a cryptic quote about betrayal, something vague and sad. I liked it. He never suspected me. Why would he? I still packed his lunch, still left post-its in his car. Drive safe, love you, call me after work. Lies written in my own handwriting. I knew he was lying too. Every time he touched me, he was touching her in his mind. So I gave him a gift, a framed photo of our wedding. I placed it in his office, right on the desk, where he once took a call from her while I was in the room. He smiled when he saw it, said I was sweet. I kissed his forehead, said nothing. By then I had a plan, a real one. It started with Rachel's client. I used an old friend in web development, paid him in cash. No questions. He hacked into her site, redirected 2 of her ad campaigns to a sketchy pharma site. Then I reported her to the brands she partnered with. They dropped her within 48 hours. Her blog went quiet. She posted once more, taking a break. Thanks for the love. I sent her flowers. No name on the card. He came home late that Friday, said traffic was bad. I nodded, asked if he wanted Thai or Italian for dinner. He picked Thai. We ate quietly. He checked his phone 3 times. I pretended not to notice. After dinner, I handed him an envelope. No return address. Inside was the picture of him and Rachel, and the report I filed, and a printout of every comment I ever made on her blog. He looked at me like I was someone he'd never seen before. You did this, he said. I sipped my wine. Yes, but why? I smiled. Because you taught me how. He moved out that night, took 1 suitcase, left his wedding ring on the counter. I didn't cry. Instead, I took out the trash, washed the dishes, and played the song we danced to at our wedding. I let it play twice. Then I deleted it from my playlist forever. I slept alone in our bed and dreamed of peace. The next morning, I deleted every photo of him from my phone. Not out of spite, out of necessity. I couldn't heal with his face smiling back at me. From Niagara Falls, or Disney World, or that road trip through Arizona, where we almost broke up the first time. I kept 1 photo though, just one. Him holding Sophie when she was 3, both of them covered in chocolate cake. I cropped myself out. He texted me 2 days later, just can we talk? I left it on red. I didn't need to hear what he had to say. I'd already listened to him lie for 6 months straight. Words were his weapons. Silence would be mine. I didn't tell anyone at first. Not even my sister. Not the girls. I just let the silence spread like fog. It protected me, gave me room to think, to breathe. He moved in with a coworker, not Rachel. At least that's what Sophie said after he slipped and mentioned something during a short phone call. She asked me if I was okay. I said I was. She didn't believe me. I didn't blame her. Lily came home for Thanksgiving. I pretended everything was fine for as long as I could, but she noticed the wine bottles piling up in the bin. She noticed the empty side of the closet. She noticed me flinching when his name came up in a text. So I told her, just her, not the revenge part, just the cheating, the lies, the moving out. She cried harder than I did. Sophie overheard. She was angrier than sad, slammed her bedroom door, called him a coward, said she'd never forgive him. I didn't correct her. That night, I slept with the door open for the first time in weeks. It felt like the house could finally breathe again. 3 months later, Rachel posted a new photo. She looked thinner, tired, no captions, no hashtags, just her, alone on a bench, looking out at the water. It didn't give me joy, not exactly, but it made something in me unclench. Divorce was quiet. He didn't fight me on much, maybe because he felt guilty, or maybe because he was too busy dealing with the mess I left behind. I got the house, the car, the retirement fund stayed mostly intact, but the best thing I got was something he couldn't see. I took a solo trip upstate after it was finalized. Just a weekend, rented a cabin, left my phone in a drawer, took long walks, read a whole book without checking email, slept with the windows open. It was the first time in years I didn't wake up in the middle of the night, choking on drink. When I came home, I changed the locks, not because I had to, because I wanted to. 6 months later, Rachel reached out to me. I didn't recognize the number. She called twice. I let it go to voicemail both times. Then she sent a message, just 1 line. I didn't know. I'm sorry. I stared at it for a long time. I typed out 15 different replies, some cruel, some forgiving, some that sounded like poems. I didn't send any of them. I just blocked her number. Some things don't deserve a response. Life didn't suddenly get better. That's not how it works. I still had bills, still had to shovel snow, still had days where I missed the idea of him, not the man himself. But those days passed quicker than they used to. I painted the bedroom, bought new sheets, rearranged the furniture in the living room. I wanted the house to look like mine, not like a memory we both shared. I started journaling again. Nothing poetic, just lists. What I did that day, what I wanted tomorrow, what I was proud of. One night, I wrote, I didn't cry today. Then I crossed it out and wrote, I smiled without faking it. That felt better. Then came the letter. A handwritten envelope in the mail, no return address, just my name, in his handwriting. I stood there for 5 minutes before I opened it. Inside, 3 pages. He said he was sorry, that he was weak, that Rachel was a mistake he made while trying to feel something again, that he didn't know how unhappy he was until he lost me. He didn't ask me to take him back. He just wanted me to know that he saw it now, that he understood what I'd cared, that he admired how I didn't explode, that I just moved like smoke through all of it. I didn't write back, but I read it twice. Then I lit a match and burned it over the sink, not out of anger, out of ceremony. I watched the ashes swirl down the drain and thought, this is what closure looks like. Not words, not tears, just fire and water, and silence. Lily called me last week, told me she was dating someone new. She asked me how I knew when love was real. I told her I'm still figuring that out. We both laughed. It felt good to be honest without being bitter. Sophie's learning to drive now. I sit in the passenger seat and try not to grip the door too hard. She's fearless. I like that about her. Sometimes when I'm alone in the house, I talk out loud to myself, just to hear my own voice fill the room. I remind myself, I did that. I survived that. I came back from it, and no one ever saw me coming. They say revenge is ugly, but I disagree. Sometimes revenge looks like a quiet woman sitting at her kitchen table, drinking coffee from a brand new mug, smiling to herself because she made it, not out of spite, out of power and peace. It's strange, the things you start to notice once the storm has passed. The quiet, the way the light hits a room differently when you're no longer shrinking inside it. I noticed how the faucet in the downstairs bathroom always dripped, just slightly, after midnight. How the neighbor's dog only barked when the mail truck pulled up. I started noticing myself too, how I breathed when no one was watching. For the first time in years, I wasn't managing anyone else's emotion, not his guilt, not my daughter's confusion, not Rachel's pity, just mine. And I liked the stillness. I donated half the clothes in my closet, got rid of the ones he said he liked, the soft sweaters, the tight skirts, the delicate things I wore to keep him looking at me. I started wearing jeans again, bought a pair of boots I loved without asking anyone's opinion. That first Saturday after the divorce, I went to a diner alone, ordered pancakes, sat by the window and watched people. A man at the next table smiled at me, not in a sleazy way, just a smile. I smiled back. It took me 6 more months to update my status on Facebook, not because I was ashamed. I just didn't want the flood of comments, the sympathy, the unsolicited advice. But one morning, I opened the app and clicked the edit button, changed married to single. That was it. The silence that followed was beautiful. Eventually, I told my sister everything, even the part about Rachel's son, the sabotage, the photo, the emails. She didn't judge me. She leaned back on the couch, took a sip of wine and said, honestly, I would have done worse. We laughed until we cried. That's when I realized revenge didn't ruin me. It returned me. Lily asked if I'd ever date again. I said maybe, if it felt right, if the man understood silence, if he didn't need rescuing or controlling or fixing, just someone who could sit with me and not be afraid of what I've seen. I started making a new list, not of enemies this time, but of things I wanted. Fresh sheets, a trip to Portland, new recipes, a better pair of sunglasses, to read more fiction, to tell the truth, even when it stings. That last one mattered the most, because for so long, I swallowed truths just to keep the peace. Now I let them sit on my tongue until I'm ready to speak them. I found the necklace he gave me on our 10th anniversary, tucked in the back of the drawer. I almost threw it out, but I didn't. I sold it, used the money to book a writing retreat in Vermont. Just me, a quiet cabin, and a dozen strangers who didn't know my story. One of the prompts was write about the day your life changed. I wrote for an hour, no filter, no edits. The last line I wrote was I didn't lose my mind, I recovered it. When I came back, Sophie noticed something. She said my laugh was louder. I hadn't noticed, but she was right. I started going on walks after dinner, started sleeping better, started calling people back. Not everyone, just the ones who never asked, what did you do wrong when they found out about the divorce. I even cleared out the garage, found a box of his old college stuff. I didn't open it, just drove it to the donation center and handed it over. The guy asked if I was I said absolutely. Sometimes I still think about Rachel. I wonder if she knows I'm the reason her business collapsed. If she ever pieced it together. If she regrets it. If she hates me. But I don't lose sleep over it. What I did wasn't kind, but it wasn't cruelty for cruelty's sake. It was precision. It was reclamation. She stole something from me. I just took something back. He sent a message through Sophie a few weeks ago. Said he wanted to meet, for closure, for mature. I told her to tell him I'd already closed the door, maturely. She laughed, said he looked stunned. I hope he was. He taught me how to survive in silence. He taught me what lies sound like when they wear suits and use polite tones. But most of all, he taught me how little of him I needed to feel whole. There's a moment in every woman's life, I think, when she looks in the mirror and stops asking what does he see, and starts asking what do I see. That moment came for me on a Wednesday. No special occasion. I just caught my reflection while brushing my teeth. And I thought, you look like someone who came back from hell and built a garden on top of it. I spat the toothpaste out, rinsed, and smiled at myself. Not out of vanity, out of recognition. Spring came early this year. The cherry tree in our front yard bloomed 2 weeks ahead of schedule. I stood at the window with my coffee and watched the petals drift down like ash. For a second, it looked like snow. For a second, I remembered the winter he left. Then I remembered how warm the house feels now. I started volunteering at the library on Saturdays, shelving books, helping kids find stories, talking elderly women who smell like lavender and peppermint. One of them told me I had kind eyes. I hadn't thought of my eyes in years. I met a man there, not like that. Just someone who talked to me without trying to charm me. He asked about my favorite authors. I told him I liked flawed women and stories that don't end neatly. He smiled. So, real life? Exactly. Sometimes I walk by the park where he once met Rachel. I used to avoid it. Now, I pass through it on purpose. I sit on the bench where I once watched them from a distance. It's weathered. The paint is chipped. I like that. It reminds me that even things that get worn down still hold weight. I don't feel haunted anymore. There are days when I think about reaching out to her, not to reconnect, not for revenge, just to tell her I'm okay. But I don't, because the truth is, some stories don't need sequels. Some chapters stay closed, because reopening them would stain everything you've rewritten. Lily sent me a photo last week, her and her boyfriend at a concert. They looked so alive. I didn't respond right away. I just stared at it for a few minutes and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Joy, not the kind you fake for holidays or paste on your face at PTA meetings. The kind that comes when your kids are happy and you're not pretending to be someone you're not. Sophie asked me if I ever thought about dating again. I told her I don't think about it. I just live. If someone shows up who feels like air, not pressure, I'll know. She nodded. That makes sense, she said. She's smarter than I was at her age. I went through old journals last night, pages and pages of who I used to be, trying so hard to be small, to be safe, to keep the peace. There was one entry where I wrote, I don't know who I am without him. I underlined it 3 times. I wanted to tear the page out, but I didn't. I left it there, as evidence, proof that I was once buried and still managed to climb out. Sometimes, people ask if I believe in forgiveness. Here's what I say. Forgiveness isn't a gift for the other person. It's not something you wrap up and hand over to make things even. Forgiveness is space. It's the decision to stop renting out parts of yourself to pain. I haven't forgiven him, not in the way people mean it, but I've stopped carrying him, and that's enough. I bought a new journal. No locks, no hiding. The first line I wrote, you were never powerless. The second, you just forgot. I want to remember that, even on the soft days, even when I'm folding laundry or watering plants or paying bills. I want to remember the woman who didn't fall apart, who chose silence when she could have screamed, who wrote her own ending instead of begging for a new beginning. He reached out once more, a simple email, said he was engaged, that he hoped I was well. I didn't respond, not out of anger. I just didn't see the point. He's someone I used to know, a character from an earlier chapter, one who served his purpose and exited the page. The story moved on without him. So did I. I still keep the photo of him and Sophie. but I don't look at it often. When I do, I focus on her face, not his. The joy there, the trust, that's what I protected. That's what I saved. Me, her, us. I planted herbs last weekend. Basil, rosemary, thyme. Things he never liked the smell of. I tucked them into the soil with bare hands and didn't bother wearing gloves. Dirt under my nails felt like proof of growth, of reclaiming space, of touching the ground without falling into it. The neighbor asked where he'd gone. I told her he moved. She nodded and said nothing. People understand more than they let on. Sophie came outside later and helped me label the little wooden markers. She asked if I ever wanted to move too. I told her no. This house isn't haunted anymore. The ghosts got tired of knocking. It's funny how a place can shift when the tension leaves. How walls stop holding secrets and just go back to being walls. I started sleeping with the window open again. At first, it scared me, the vulnerability. But now, I like hearing the wind rustle the trees at 2 a.m. I like the cold air on my arms. I like remembering that I can rest without someone next to me, that I can trust the silence, that I can trust myself. There's a woman I met at the co-op, divorced 5 years, 2 kids, similar story. We had tea once, swapped scars without naming names. She told me she used to write letters to herself when things got too heavy, not to fix it, just to feel seen. So I tried it, wrote one last night. Dear me, you did the hard thing. You stayed kind through the storm. You didn't set fire to the house, just let it go cold. And when it was time, you warmed yourself back up. That's not weakness, that's art. I folded it and left it in the kitchen drawer. For the next time I forget. Sophie got her license. She drove us to the farmer's market on Sunday. Blasted music I didn't recognize and sang every word. At a red light, she looked over and said, "You're lighter now, not just your hair, everything." I didn't know how to answer, so I just nodded. She was right. I took down the wedding photo, not in anger, just it didn't belong anymore. I replaced it with a landscape I painted in an art class I joined on a whim. It's crooked and moody and not very good, but it's mine. People think revenge is about pain. It's real revenge, the kind that lasts, is about clarity, about stripping everything down until only truth is left. And my truth is simple. I was loyal, I was patient, I was kind, until I wasn't. And when I stopped being those things for him, I started being them for me. Some nights I still think about that last look on his face, when I told him yes, I did all of it, when he finally realized who he'd underestimated. It wasn't satisfaction I felt, it was arrival. I met myself in that moment, all of me, not just the wife or the mother or the quiet background figure holding everyone together. I met the woman who doesn't flinch, who doesn't beg, who leaves ashes where betrayal used to live. I wish someone had told me sooner that survival can be elegant, that you can burn bridges in silence, that you don't have to scream to win, you just have to outlive the lie, and I have. Now, when I stand at my bathroom mirror, brushing my teeth, I see her me, not younger, not shinier, but sharper, more real. And when I smile, it's not for anyone else's comfort. It's a promise to myself that I will never, never make myself smaller again. Not for love, not for fear, not for anyone.